Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for the 300th episode of the Abundology Podcast. I'm Renee Spears, a spirit guide channeler and spiritual mentor, and every Sunday for the last almost 5 years, I've shared the energy for the week ahead. Now, the podcast originally started with me talking with my friends and people I found interesting, and it's evolved into just a few interviews and mostly weekly energy updates. I research what's happening with astrology, numerology, the shift of the seasons, solar storms, important dates, etc., to keep on top of what's happening with the collective energy, because it helps me prepare for readings with my clients. So it just made logical sense that I would share all this info with everyone. So a special thank you to those of you who have listened since the beginning. I knew absolutely nothing about podcasting when I started. And I made all the rookie mistakes, especially with my technology, and many of my podcasts sounded very crappy, so thank you for hanging in there with me. I started on a whim, really with no expectations. After running a mortgage company for the previous 20 years, I just wanted to try something new and fun. And now here we are, 300 episodes later, in the top 1% of podcasts worldwide, and routinely on the Apple Podcast charts, which is a big deal for podcasters. So consistency, persistence, patience, and following your intuition, these are all the keys to success with everything, including podcasts. So if there's something you want to start, even if you don't know anything about it, please do it. Life is too short to wait until you do it perfectly. And what fun is there in doing things perfectly anyway? The fun is in learning and improving and looking back 5 years later, realizing that you did something pretty fucking cool. So this week on Thursday, December 21st at 7:27 p.m. Pacific, 10:27 p.m. Eastern is the Winter Solstice and the start of Capricorn season. Honoring and celebrating the Winter Solstice dates back thousands and thousands of years. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and indigenous cultures celebrated it with rituals and festivals to honor the return of the sun, the triumph of light over darkness, and rebirth and renewal. Many of the ancient traditions of celebrating the solstice evolved, and we still celebrate them today in other forms, such as Christmas, Hanukkah, and Dongji Festival in East Asia. So celebrating the solstice connects us to the lineage of our ancestors. It connects us to rhythms of nature, and it's a moment when we can pause and connect with ourselves. At the winter solstice, the sun is at its lowest point in the sky relative to the celestial equator. The celestial equator is a fancy term for the giant imaginary circle that's on the same plane as our equator. And the literal meaning of solstice is sun stands still. And when it stands still for a moment, we get this extra boost of energy, and this boost revitalizes us. The solstice represents the shift from darkness to light, from the longest night of the year to the gradual lengthening of days, and the balance between opposites, darkness and light, yin and yang. The solstice is a moment of balance and a chance for us to take a minute and reflect on our lives and what we've learned this year, and to set intentions for next year. The intentions we set now start to slowly pick up steam as the days get longer and when Mercury, Jupiter, and Chiron go direct by the end of the year. The darkest night of the year guides us to enter into the dark night of the soul, a time of retreat where we can go within and listen to the deepest stirrings of our soul. When it's just us, alone with our thoughts, that's when we can get deep and come face to face with a new truth of who we are. 2023 was a 7 universal year, and a 7-year in numerology is about spiritual growth and inner development that help us understand ourselves and the world better. So we're different people than we were 12 months ago. Thank you, 2023. So who are you now? What do you want for your life now? So the solstice is our time to sit with ourselves and our new truths. So on Thursday evening, take a minute for yourself. Light a candle, maybe sit in front of the fire and pause. Reflect on the year and how much you've experienced, how much you've grown, and allow yourself to be proud. Also, during the winter solstice, our bodies experience a subtle shift as the days gradually start getting longer. The increase in daylight impacts our circadian rhythm. And as the days start to lengthen, we feel a lift in our mood and our energy levels. Things start to look a little brighter. The solstice also aligns with the sun's move into Capricorn and the start of Capricorn season. Capricorn is a cardinal sign, and the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, are associated with starting new seasons and new phases of life. They mark the beginning of each of the 4 seasons. So Aries for spring, Cancer for summer, Libra for autumn, and Capricorn for winter. And cardinal signs carry the energy of new beginnings and fresh starts. And each cardinal sign represents a different area of life where these new beginnings are associated. And Capricorn is associated with career, ambition, and long-term goals. It is a time for initiating plans, focusing on success, and building foundations. So the stereotype of a Capricorn is of like maybe a coffee-drinking business person with a briefcase. So Capricorn is one of the most goal-oriented, cool-headed, and driven signs. They make step-by-step plans for everything, which is the perfect energy that we want for setting intentions for 2024. This year, Capricorn season is also a time for slowing down and tying up loose ends, because this is the last big gasp of retrograde season, which officially ends in January. December is our final opportunity to go back and finish up and tidy up 2023. Right now, Mercury is in its 4th and final retrograde of the year until January 1st. Chiron ends its retrograde on the 26th, and Jupiter is also retrograde until December 30th. So there's a heavy influence from Jupiter in the winter solstice chart, which means that the intentions we set now come out successful and start growing this spring when Jupiter starts picking up steam moving forward. It's been quite some time since the astrological chart of the start of a new season has been so positive. So enjoy this lovely time before the end of the year. This is the time to rest, to reflect on your personal growth, to set some intentions for the future, and enjoy this time before things change and we move forward next year. The solstice is a turning point. We're finishing up one chapter, and this year has been one transformative chapter, and we're starting a brand new, super positive year. So there is one story that I told on my podcast that got far more comments than anything else that I've ever done. So a few years ago, I lived in a fancy high-rise apartment in downtown Portland that overlooked Pioneer Square, and I lived there with my 110-pound Rottweiler Jack. And every month, Jack got a bark box, which is full of treats and dog toys. And the dog toys that came very often look like sex toys, especially the plastic ones. So one time he got a stuffed snail, and the part of the snail that sticks out of the shell, like the body of the snail, was this pink fuzzy material that resembled a big pink fuzzy vagina. So I called it the Vagina Shell. And when I was playing with Jack, I would throw the vagina shell and then I would yell, "Get the vagina shell, Jack, get the vagina shell." So the apartment had cement walls and it was very quiet. I mean, you couldn't hear the neighbors unless you were walking by the door in the hallway because the door was wood. Well, I got new neighbors and they must have walked by the door when I was playing with Jack and yelling, "Get the vagina shell, Jack." So the new neighbors met one of the old neighbors at the elevator one day and they asked about me and my partner, Jack. So the old neighbor said Jack was my Rottweiler, and she said they got this horrified, shocked look on their faces. They told her about hearing me yell, "Get the vagina shell." And of course she burst out laughing because she knew about vagina shell. So I have had many sponsorship offers over the past 5 years, and I've turned them all down because I don't want what I talk about to be censored. I want to be able to drop an F-bomb or talk about vagina shells, and I want to advertise my stuff, like my Astrology and Abundology package that's available right now. This is my most popular package. You get an hour astrology reading with the astrologer Deborah Norton and an hour spirit guide channeling with me for only $222. This is a fantastic way to start the new year. So there is a link in the show notes, and you can also go to my website, abundology.com. Also, next week, I will be releasing a Winter Solstice spiritual practice. It will be pay what you can and it'll be posted on my YouTube channel. And this is a really nice way to take a moment for yourself and really honor the solstice. So thank you for listening every week. I appreciate you liking, sharing, commenting on Vaginal Shell, and passing this podcast on to your friends. Happy solstice, everyone. Please take a minute to yourself to light a candle and honor how far you've come this year. And I'll talk to you next week on Christmas Eve.